another episode in A Year Gardening. Well, we've just been through what is probably one of the driest spells I can ever remember. All the water butts are empty. A lot of the plants are very, very brown, and some of the things like lettuces have bolted through where it's been so dry and I've not been able to get water on them. We've got some nice fruit coming on the apple trees, so I'll share that with you later on. I'll show you the bits and pieces that I've done with the edge of the stream, which I was working on in the last episode around the Peace Garden. Got a nice little trip to a local allotment where I met a couple of people to find out what goes on behind the scenes in the allotment. I'm going to do a little bit of summer pruning on the peach tree because that's just growing a little bit too much now, and in general just a few little tidying up jobs, bits and pieces to do in the garden. Dig up the potatoes and I'll show you the results of the harvest there as well. So without further ado, welcome to August in A Year Gardening. Soft fruit area of the garden, and you will probably remember just over a year ago when I started to train this peach tree, and some of it is just growing out of shape, and so parts of the plant that are growing outwards and higher than I want, now is the time to cut those back. Remember, with winter pruning we're encouraging growth, with summer pruning we're restraining the growth. So I'm just going to work out, I want to keep that section, but this section can come off. And that section there can come off, and we're going to return it to the shape that I was originally looking for. We've got an area here which looks quite damaged, so I'm just going to take that one out as well. And I don't really want it going higher than this fence, so I'm just going to take out a couple of sections which are growing higher. We come back down here on that one there, and this can be trained in, so we'll just reduce that in size. There's a little bit of softwood here. Up. If it's growing out towards me, I don't want it. Just want the items that are growing upwards. This one here, we can train in behind there. I can lock that in with a piece of wire, and that will be an upward growth for next year. This will take back to a branch where it's growing there, so we'll take that one out, and we're going to return the shape to the shape that we actually wanted originally. And as you can see, the fan is now coming back. These ones that are growing forwards, we just don't want those. Then we'll look at this going forwards there, and then we'll take these just down. Growth there. Again, a little bit of either dead or diseased wood on here, which we're going to take out. Take that back. There. And we're actually getting the shape back that we originally wanted. And I'll just nip over the far side here. Again, a couple of pieces that we don't need growing forwards. Take this down. This one here doesn't appear to have any life to it, so we'll take that back to there. And this one here we'll just reduce in length before retraining, and then generally we've got the shape that we wanted of the fan. And then we'll leave that to grow the rest of the year. That opens up air to the plant and lets more light to the plant as well, so that'll encourage it to just keep going. In fact, I don't like this one up here either, too tall there, so we'll take this one back. It is growing forwards anyway, and then we take that one off of here. This central growth here, I can probably take that back right down. That's much better. Well, it gives us the shape that we actually need. Beautiful. Well, now I think it's time to take a trip down the vegetable garden, have a look at the potatoes, and I'll tell you about the cucumbers and tomatoes and beans and things that we've got growing down there as well. Well, this is another crop that really didn't get enough water, but they're nice, good quality potatoes. Probably got around about a pound or so here, and so we add that up, we're probably going to end up with around about 5 or 6 pounds, which is probably around about 2 to 3 kilos of potatoes. So not bad for my salads. Well, I've now finished taking the potatoes up. Going to sort this soil out, give it a little bit more feed, get it raked over, and we're going to plant some beetroot and some radishes in here. Now my beans are now about 8 foot tall there. They are a bit behind, but they're doing okay. And I've got a couple of nice beans actually growing on there at the moment. We'll keep our eye on that, try and keep some water going on there. My tomatoes and my cucumbers, they're a bit behind on where they normally would be, but they are growing well. I've got fruits on there, and I'll keep a close eye on those over the coming weeks. So whilst I've been growing my fruit and vegetables in the garden, just around the corner from me, around about half a mile away, there are some allotments, and a wonderful place it is to be there as well. So I took some time the other day to go down and meet the manager of the allotments and ask him a couple of questions, and also meet some of the allotment holders. So I'll take you there now. Now, one of the great things about Britain is we have these areas called allotments. And I've come down to a local allotment today at Summerhill in Tunbridge to speak with a couple of the people here about why they work on allotments and what they grow and what benefits it gives them. So I'm going to just crack over and we're going to speak to a couple of those people now. So I'm now joined by Richard, who is the manager of this allotment, and what a fantastic site it is. We're going to talk to Grace in a minute, who's one of the allotment holders, but first of all we're going to speak to Richard about the challenges of running one of these wonderful allotments. So Richard, what do you find one of the hardest things about running a fantastic facility like this?
Well, I think I can divide my duties into three areas. First, there is the straight administrative one, i.e. collection rents for the year. Every plot holder is sent a letter saying how much he or she has to pay, and then I will do any chasing up if they haven't paid, or if they want to give up, or they want more room. So there's the admin one. The second thing is the allotment. There are 7 allotment sites in Tunbridge, and it's all run by a committee called TAGA, Tunbridge Allotment and Gardens Association, and we run a seed and potato scheme. So everybody gets a seed manual from King's and potatoes, and again I distribute the manuals and then collect the orders, or they give them to me, and when the seeds arrive and the potatoes arrive, I then deliver them to the various plot holders.
Amazing.
The third area is making sure that people cultivate their plot properly. There are something like 140 people on the waiting list for allotments in Tunbridge, and quite frankly, if people don't cultivate their plots effectively, then it's my job to either chase them out to make sure they do, or terminate their contract at the end of the year and get some new people in. So that is not always a pleasant thing to do, but it's just things. This is the way life is. You know, with 140 odd people wanting allotments, if allotments aren't used to their full capacity, then they've got to go. Having said that, I have 1 or 2 plots where, due to personal circumstances, an injury or whatever, the plot is not cultivated, then, you know, you live with that.
Well, you have to live alongside challenges, don't you?
Absolutely.
But what sort of pride do you get when you look around here and you see all these beautiful plants and flowers growing? You must have a sense of personal pride.
Yeah, I mean, my background is as a food scientist, and therefore I just wonder at the synthetic capabilities of these plants to grow leaves, grow food. So yeah, there's that aspect to it. And then I also enjoyed the fact that we have a number of people here from, I think, 7 different countries worldwide.
7? Wow.
If I include Yorkshire, of course.
Okay.
They all have their own views. They grow their own crops, and it's quite interesting just to learn how other people cultivate and grow things. And Grace is no exception.
It's fantastic. Well, Richard, thank you very much for your time.
Okay,
I
pleasure.
greatly appreciate it.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, hi friends. We're now with Grace, who has one of the plots here on the allotments, and I think I'm just going to ask you, Grace, why did you decide to have an allotment?
Well, I decided to have this allotment because where I live there is no garden, so I thought this will be a very good place to gather with my family for barbecues, gather with friends. Also, now that my children, they are older, so they do their gatherings here. Apart from doing work and enjoying nature, enjoying workout.
Okay, so what do you actually grow here?
Well, we get tomatoes, radishes, peppers. Sometimes when the weather helps.
Yes.
And then we get sweet corns, peas, and lots of herbs, lettuce and corn, cabbages. I have a vine over there. We have lots of fruits and vegetables.
The whole thing looks amazing. It looks beautiful. Why don't more people do this?
Ask me again?
So why do not more people do this?
Oh, well, I think because everybody we get busy with another things, especially technology.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is what I will be doing if I had a garden. But now it's like that necessity, and made me realize, especially during the lockdown, this is important.
This is the most beautiful
Yeah.
area I've been. There are hundreds and hundreds of plants around me. Beautiful things growing. Plants, flowers, trees, shrubs, vegetables. It's beautiful.
Thank
Grace,
you.
you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That encouraged me more.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
Cheers. Well, what a lovely time we had round at the allotments, and I must say a big thank you to the people that I met there. We did not expect to be coming home with the lovely produce gifts that we did. Fresh eggs from the chickens that are kept there, lovely courgettes and carrots. Very, very kind, and what an absolutely wonderful place to visit. And now, having found out that there are 140 people waiting on the waiting list, I think I'll have to concentrate on growing my produce here, because I may not be around for the amount of time I would need to be on the waiting list to enjoy using an allotment like that. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of a video catch-up of the work that I've done on the stream area over at the Peace Garden, and some pictures of what's been going on down at the local pub in the new garden that we've been doing there. A little bit of time to share with you some of these lovely apples that we've got coming on one of the trees. I've got another couple of apples on the Braeburn now, but these look really, really lovely. I've just got to make sure I can keep enough water. Now, you remember when I planted this mini orchard last year, I didn't expect any fruit for a couple of 3 years, but this is quite laden, and so I'm very, very pleased. And the couple of apples we got on the Braeburn are going to be absolutely wonderful. We'll have to do a little bit of tidying up on a couple of these plants before we hit the autumn, just to control the size and shape of them. But all in all, very, very happy with our mini orchard. Well, this is what the dry weather has been doing. So these Montbretia or Crocosmia, whichever you wish to call them, are really, really suffering. I've only got so many bowls of washing up water that I can pop out on the garden, but these will come back year after year, so it's not a great loss if I don't get too much this year. What I have got to do, these have gone to seed very, very early on the native geraniums, and I've got to get a load of deadheading and tidying done to these plants. They've fallen flat, they've just dried right out, so lots of work to do here. Get it all nice and clean and tidy. But I'm going to leave this. If we get some rain, and we haven't really had any rain for around about 6 weeks, I think the rain gauge was showing around about 4 millimetres of rain over the last 6 weeks, which is not enough to get the air feeling damp, let alone the ground. And my water butts are all empty. So it's just spare washing up water and things that we've been using on various plants in the garden until such time as we get some rain again. Well, that's the garden as it stands at the moment, so let's disappear up to the top and we'll just sum up what we've done on today's lovely little show. Well, that brings me to the end of today's little show, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. A really big thank you to Richard and Grace and the other allotment holders for giving me their time, because that was greatly appreciated. And what a wonderful asset that little allotment round the corner is to our community. We've done a little bit of tidying and harvesting today, and I must say that I'm really disappointed that my beans and my peas, my tomatoes and my cucumbers are not as far advanced as they normally would be, but it's been exceptionally dry. Now, in this last half an hour, we've had another millimetre of rain, and that's about all it was. It came down, really splattered, and then disappeared. We need more rain, we really do. My pots on the wall over here, my geraniums and fuchsias, they're very, very dry. My big pots down here, they're also dry. But no worries, we'll get the washing up water on them later on, give them a bit of life. Now, in the next show, I'm going to be bringing you a couple of advances. I'm going to be taking up the plastic railway track and replacing it with an electric Hornby railway track, where we join the tracks together with some solder and get the current running through, get some cleaner on there, and we can run the trains nicely on there. I'm going to be moving a pot that I've got with an absolutely wonderful plant in it, and it started to climb and do all of the things I would like the plant to do. It's a jasmine, by the way, yeah, and that's going to come down, and I'm going to plant that in the bottom of the garden so I can go over the arch and join with the honeysuckle. I must say, this warm weather has really affected the clematis, and they finished flowering much earlier than I would expect, and a lot of the plants have finished flowering earlier and setting seed because I think they're dying. So they're setting seed a lot earlier than one would normally expect. But we've had a reasonable harvest on our first early potatoes. We're going to put the radishes and the beetroot seeds into that bed and get those growing for a later harvest this year. So all in all, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And if we've got to change our gardens to suit a new climate, then that's something we're going to have to do. It's not easy when you see plants that are sun and semi-shade just dying because there's more sun than they're used to. So we're going to have to reconsider what we plant, where we plant it. I've got a couple of shady areas, and things like the fuchsias are doing so well in the woodland border because they've got that shade and moisture retention. But the Montbretia, it's brown and dying. My dahlias are almost gone. So we've got to rethink the way we do our gardens to adjust to the climate that we're coming into. And that's something I'm going to sit down and really, really work out. But I hope your gardens are as successful as they can be at this moment in time without the rain and all of the challenges that brings. So we'll keep smiling, we'll keep working on our gardens, and we'll keep moving forward. And that just leads me to say, stay safe, be kind to each other, and happy gardening. And I'll leave you today with a small glass of Shiraz. So, cheers. Happy gardening, everyone.